Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and I can't wait to jump into this video because we have 9 more fun and OP builds to check out for Elden Ring and the DLC. Throughout this video, though, I'm also going to be talking about my opinions on Elden Ring Nightreign as well, because I got to try it last night for the first time for around 3 hours. For the first build here, we have Guts combined with Shriek of Sorrow. This is a really cool combination and one I haven't really tried out yet. The advantage here is with the Blood-Sucking Crack tier and Shriek of Sorrow, the lower your HP, the more damage you're going to be doing with a build like this one, because that's how Shriek of Sorrow works. As your HP goes down, you get more of a physical damage bonus. I put Guts Greatsword in Blood Affinity to give us some bleed build up as well. Now there is something else you can do with this build. You can probably activate the buff, much like a lot of the roars in the game, and then switch to another Ash of War. I'm sure you can do that for Shriek of Sorrow. The buff will probably remain active. However, Guts Greatsword is so good on its own that I decided to mix in charge attacks, jump attacks, and a little bit of bleed on the weapon as well to kind of build around Guts and Shriek of Sorrow without having to switch too much. Alright, now for our first things about Elden Ring Nightreign. After checking out last night, first things first, I would love for you guys to comment below and let me know what you thought so far if you're part of the network test. So far, I think it's really fun. Last night's session, the servers weren't bad at all. It was pretty excellent overall. The teams I had were kind of a mixed bag, but it's definitely a battle royale mixed with a Souls game. It's a sped up version of Elden Ring where you don't really have a ton of time to do everything. A little bit rushed, but at the same time, I did have a lot of fun. I'm going to talk about it throughout this video. Let's jump into equipment. For equipment, we have Guts Greatsword and Blood Affinity with Shriek of Sorrow. We have the Dragon Communion Seal, White Mask, part of the Rakshasa set. We have the Axe Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman. We have the Blade of Mercy Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation. Blood-Sucking Crack tier, of course, fits this build really well. Faith tier, let's jump into stats. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 14 Mind, 32 Endurance, 40 Strength. It's going to be 60 when you two-hand this. We have 45 Arcane for that Blood Soft Crap. That'll be 25 Faith when you use the Faith tier. We're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blessing's Boon. And let's jump into our next build on here. We have a combination build using Mesmer Spear, Spear of the Impaler, and then of course different incantations with this one you could use as well. Right there we used Scarlet Ionia, however you say it, and then of course in our offhand we're going to end up using another spear too. This is going to be a combination build that allows you to use two great spears, two very different great spears that have similar scaling. The other one we're going to use is the Barbed Staff Spear. Now, you could switch between Ashes of War, but if you have a hard time switching between the two, you could just use the dual move set, and then, of course, main hand Spear of the Impaler. I think you're going to have a lot more fun with Mesmer's Spear because it is really fun to use. The Ash of War is an absolute blast. I wish it had more hyper armor, but it's really cool to use. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And for equipment, we have Spear of the Impaler plus 10 preferably. We have the Barbed Staff Spear plus 10. We have the Erdtree Seal for this one, Winged Serpent Helm and the Rakshasa set, Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman. We have Millicent's Prosthesis for some dexterity, Flame tier, Holy tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 27 Endurance, 14 Strength, 35 Dexterity, 60 Faith, and then we're using Golden Vow, Howl Shabiri, Blessings of the Erdtree, and then any other incantations you want to use that you have the Faith for. And the next one up here is for Carian Slicer, as well as Carian Greatsword. Basically any Carian sorcery you can add to this one, but Carian Slicer is one of the best things in the entire game. I've covered it before. I wanted to do an updated build for it because a couple people requested it, and it's amazing. It's still phenomenal in terms of damage. FP ratio is fantastic. Literally, the damage that you get per the cost of FP is insane. Definitely try this one out if you're looking for a mage build. You'll absolutely shred. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And we're main-handing Lucette Staff plus 10. We have the Glintstone Staff for the boost in the offhand. Any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set on, Graven Mask Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm, Graven School Talisman, Cerulean Amber Medallion plus 3. We have the Blood-Sucking Crack tier, Magic tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 50 Vigor, 21 Mind, 20 Endurance, 12 Strength, 14 Dexterity. We have 70 Intelligence, 33 Faith. We are using Golden Vow, Howl Shabiri, Blessing's Boon, Carian Slicer, Carian Greatsword, and Terra Magica 2. And I wanted to show this clip real quick just to show off. You could use Carian Greatsword or any other Carian sorceries. Your offhand's going to give you a boost to them, so it's pretty awesome. And then, of course, if you want more range, Carian Greatsword's good for that. Carian Slicer, though, ultimately going to give you more DPS, and it's better in terms of FP as well. And the next one up here is going to be a build for both Cipher Pata in combination with the awesome Crucible Wings Ash of War. This is something you can switch to. Basically, Cipher Pata is going to be your up-close weapon, and then when you get away, you basically get a distance from your opponent. You're going to then use Crucible Wings Ash of War with Milady, and this build allows you to have a lot of variety in your playstyle. This is actually one of the most fun ones on here. I really enjoyed this. But back to Elden Ring Nightreign real quick. I want to mention another thing about it because I was going to talk about it throughout this video. As far as the network tests go, the groups I had, some of them weren't too good. I was still learning as well. A couple of them I ended up in some good groups. So far, though, I love the sped up combat. It's really cool. Need more maps, though, a little bit more variety. But overall, my impression's pretty good. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Cipher Pata plus 10 preferably. Sacred Milady plus 25 with Crucible Wings. We have the Erdtree Seal for this build. We have the Rakshasa set. We have High Faith, so you can use a lot of different incantations too. Shard of Alexander, Sacred Scorpion Charm. We have the Ritual Swords Talisman. We have Millicent's Prosthesis. And then we have the Holy Tier, Thorny Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 27 Endurance, 15 Strength, 22 Dexterity. We have 70 Faith. We're using Golden Vow, Hellish Jabiri. I was using the Minor Erdtree Incantation and Black Blade Incantation. Wanted to show these clips real quick to how convenient this is. You can go through shields with Cipher Pata's Ash of War. Don't forget that. I did that right there. This is going to be one of those situations where when you're up close like there, you can use Cipher Pata and then, of course, switch back and then use Crucible Wings. It'll give you some distance, and then once you're up close again, you get that awesome Ash of War from Cipher Pata. Another thing to note about Cipher Pata is you're going to get really good poise damage for the most part as well. You do have to keep the pressure on, but overall the poise damage is pretty excellent. This is definitely a build worth checking out for sure. I don't know if it's Pata or Peta, but anyway, we're going to jump on to the next build. We have the Lightning God build here. This is a different one because we're going to be using a debuff here. We're actually going to be using the Flowerstone Gavel first to get the debuff for lightning. It basically allows your enemies, it gives them less resistance to lightning and allows you to do more damage with the lightning attacks that you have by around about 20% or so if you fully charge it. It's pretty awesome to combine this, and it can allow you to do something where you don't have to do a crazy number of buffs, and you still get a lot of damage from things like Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, Knight's Lightning Spear, etc., because the boss has been debuffed, and therefore the resistance to lightning is now less. I was actually curious. I didn't try it on any of the lightning resistant enemies, the higher ones. I'm curious if it takes more points off in terms of mathematical, like if you can do decent damage to, say, the ancient dragons that have high lightning resistance. I'll have to try that out at some point. We have the Flowerstone Gavel plus 10 preferably, Dragon Communion Seal, Gravelstone Seal. We have the Rakshasa set. We have the Godfrey Icon, Lightning Scorpion Charm. We have Flock's Canvas Talisman, Shard of Alexander. We have the Bloodsucking Crack tier, Lightning tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 22 Endurance, 14 Strength, 14 Dexterity. We have 40 Faith and 50 Arcane. This is a Faith Arcane build. We're using Golden Vow, Hellish Jabiri, Blessings of the Erdtree, and Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. And next up here, we have a build for a Scattershot dagger in combination with a katana with overhead stance in occult affinity, and we could also use Baal's Tyranny or any incantations you have the faith for or that fit kind of an arcane build. You're actually going to see a bleed proc here, but you have to be really close to get the boost from Lord of Blood's Exaltation. One of the few things I don't like about Scattershot Throw, but I love the bleed buildup you get from a distance. It's not great for damage, but it is great for consistently building up bleed from a little bit far away. And then, of course, you can switch to your Katana with overhead stance. Of course, we're using Arcane again, so we're in Occult Affinity here. We got a posture break there. That was awesome. And we get a decent amount of damage from this build, too. This is another one I had a lot of fun with. A lot of these I tried to mix in different things, so it gives you more variety than previous builds I'd done. I hope you guys ended up liking these so far. We've got some more to go to. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this build. For equipment, we have the Smith's Grip Dagger and Blood Affinity with Scattershot Throw, Occult Great Katana, with overhead stance. We have the Dragon Communion Seal, white mask, part of the Rakshasa set on. We added a little armor there for the pants that we have on. Shard of Alexander. Then we have the Lord of Blood's Exaltation Talisman. We have the Fire Scorpion Charm for Baal's Tyranny. And then we have Millicent's Prosthesis. And then we have the Bloodsucking Crack tier, Thorny tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor for this one, 18 Mind, 27 Endurance, 15 Strength, 18 Dexterity, 11 Intelligence, 25 Faith. And of course we have 60 Arcane. For our buffs, we're using Golden Vow, Flame Grip Me Strength, and of course Baal's Tyranny 2, which is a really fun one to use. And next up here, we have a Faith and Arcane Jumper build. This is a really cool one because we get to use, of course, Malachi's Black Blade in combination with the Ancient or Meteor Greatsword. This is a really cool one because it gives you a lot of variety in terms of your Ashes of War. Almost 4,000 damage there, 3,600 damage there. And then mainly, we're going to be able to use jump attacks. And then if you switch to your offhand weapon, of course, you'll get to use that really cool Ash of War as well. You'll get a lot of posture damage with this one too. This is definitely worth checking out. If you like bonk builds, this is a cool one because you get 2 really great Ashes of War. Now, another thing I want to mention about Elden Ring Nightreign is, yeah, the matches were a little bit of a mix. We actually got to the final boss only one time, I believe, and we ended up losing. Some of the end bosses are really tough. It's definitely a challenging game for a Battle Royale style game. So don't expect it to be any easier than Elden Ring or Elden Ring's DLC. So far, it's pretty challenging, and I did like that. It got my mind off a lot of stuff, too, and it was all around a really fun time. I'm looking forward to it. Let's jump into equipment. We have Malachi's Black Blade plus 10, preferably. We have the Ancient or Meteor Greatsword plus 10, preferably. Dragon Communion Seal. You just need the Grey Bird chest piece on. Shard of Alexander, Sacred Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Arsenal Charms plus 1 or Great Jar's Arsenal. Still probably won't be able to hit 51 poise though. Faith tier, Holy tier, and the item we were using there was Margaret's Shackle. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 30 Endurance, 40 Strength, 15 Dexterity, 9 Intelligence, 33 Faith, 35 Arcane. Our buffs are Golden Vow, Hellish Brewery, and of course Blessing Spoon too. It's going to be a little bit difficult to hit 51 poise here. And now we're on to the one on the list that I would say really isn't overpowered, but just pure fun. I enjoyed this one a lot, so I put it together, and I had a lot of good times with this Ash of War in general. I wanted to add on to it. This uses the kicking skill, the dry leaf arts, and cold affinity, and then switches to the Zweihander with Savage Lion's Claw. This gives you a lot of variety. Believe it or not, they actually scale similarly in cold affinity. They're both a little bit quality with decent intelligence scaling. So this is a really cool one you can put together that allows you to use both something that attacks very quick and then switching back to something like Savage Lion's Claw. And back to Elden Ring Nightreign because we got a little bit of time here for the next build, before the next build. And I want to mention another thing. As far as the items and drops, everything's pretty random. In terms of content, of course, I'm going to be making content for Nightreign. It's going to be a little difficult, though, because there's a lot of randomness to the entire game. That's the concept of a Battle Royale. I got a couple cool weapons, though. There were a few that stood out. I was able to use the Royal Greatsword once. A couple different weapons from the base game. Didn't run into the Blasphemous Blade. A couple weapons. Again, I only got in one session that I wanted to see. I didn't see yet, but I am looking forward to that. Let's jump into equipment. We have Dane's Cold Footwork plus 25. We have the Cold Zweihander plus 25 preferably. We have any seal for buffs. We have part of the Rakshasa set on, and then I think that was just to hit 51 poise. We added different gloves. Shard of Alexander. We have Millicent's Prosthesis. We have Shattered Stone Talisman. We have the Winged Sword Insignia, or Rotten Winged Sword Insignia is better if you have it. Bloodsucking Crack tier, Magic tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 19 Mind, 26 Endurance. We have 25 Strength. We have 30 Dexterity, 40 Intelligence. Very quality here. 25 Faith. We are using Golden Vow, Flame Grip Me Strength, and Blessing's Boon for this build. And the next one up here is a dual hammer build. This is an all-holy hammer build. This is a really fun one because we use two different weapons here, the Morning Star and the regular mace. You can combine these together to get a good amount of poise damage. And then, of course, they have really good faith scaling, so you can get a lot of holy damage with Sacred Blade on both. Build up on successive hits, of course, and then Sacred Blade gives you some distance too on the Ash of War. This is a really fun one and definitely good for the DLC where there's a lot of bosses that are weak to holy damage. First, you're going to get good scaling with the Erdtree Seal, so you can throw in what incantations you want as well. Any holy incantations are going to work great with this build. They'll fit perfectly. Overall, this is a cool looking build too. I love the way these light up, and you get a good amount of damage from this, and poise damage too. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And we have the Sacred Morningstar and the Sacred Mace with the Sacred Blade Ash of War. We have the Erdtree Seal. We have the Rakshasa set on. Godfrey Icon for incantations. Sacred Scorpion Charm, Millicent's Prosthesis. We have the Shard of Alexander Talisman, Holy Tear, Bloodsucking Correct Tear. Let's jump into stats. And our stats on this one are 60 Vigor, 24 Mind, 23 Endurance. We have 12 Strength, 17 Dexterity. We have 80 Faith for this one. We're using Golden Vow, Halaster Brewery, Blessings of the Erdtree, Multi-Layered Ring of Light, and the Black Blade incantation goes well here too. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my top 9 new overpowered and fun builds. A mix of both. Some were both, some just fun, some just powerful. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this one ultimately. I hope you like the variety that was here. Definitely different from what I normally do. Gives you a couple options for each one. Elden Ring Nightreign has been amazing so far. If you want to see me do any kind of review or go over it in more details, let me know. I'm looking forward to the next video. Of course, I will catch you guys there, and be sure to sub.